Little bit about Ethereum nodes. And again, we're going to go over a lot of this as we go through this, but I kind of wanted to talk through some data. Now, there's a really great data source called ethernodes.org that really has a lot of information about what's going on in the Ethernet environment and how it works and where your clients are, where your people are, sync status, operating systems, everything you'd want to know. That will make it really kind of interesting. So proper source attribution, of course, is going to be ethernodes.org. Go there, check things out. So, we're talking about post-merge Ethereum, and the client is still Geth, right? So we're still going to use that. And as we go through and we test a bunch of things, we'll be looking at that because the majority of the network is truly just Geth, right? The other thing that makes this interesting too is in countries, it's mostly in the United States, but some Germany, Singapore, United Kingdom. You see a bunch of other countries in there, but by far it's United States, Germany, and Singapore. There's some interesting things that go about that. And there's some sync status that go along too. How many people have actually sunk? How many people have a full process around the data that's inside the network and they're able to view all the things? So generally only about 2/3 of it is actually synced. What's also interesting too is the operating system that's being used, right? It's mostly running on Linux. So that will work. So we'll probably focus more on Linux and Linux installs because that will kind of help me narrow things down. Now, the other thing that makes this interesting too is the network type. Now, there's a whole section in here on how to set all this stuff up in the cloud because it's important. Now, the thing that makes this interesting is the majority of these are on hosting, right? So if you go in there and you pull out that hosting, what are they actually hosted on? And you'll find that Amazon.com by far is the #1 hoster for Ethereum nodes right now because you can do a lot of cool things inside Amazon Cloud and actually have a really big, robust process. They still have some seed values and they're going to point to the Amazon cloud. Now you'll notice there's not really a whole lot of stuff going on in Azure. There's not really a whole lot of other stuff going on in the other places, even Google Cloud, right? It's mostly, this is an Amazon market. So it's fascinating that as they moved over to the post-merge market, that a lot of things went on to Amazon. Now, cloud computing and Ethereum actually makes sense because you get that peer-to-peer portion of it, but then you get the cloud on top of it. You get the survivability of the cloud. You get a lot of other benefits from the cloud. You get data being stored all over the place in the cloud. So you have things you can do. So you could actually store your entire blockchain over in S3 and go from there. So this actually really makes sense. And it just strikes me as kind of interesting that it's that obvious that 62% or 68% of the entire network is just running on Amazon Cloud. You've got a couple Google Clouds here, Helzer Online GmbH, that's in Europe, and then other places. So it's kind of cool how they're doing it. But Oracle Cloud, you don't really see a whole lot of other stuff. You see a little bit of Alibaba here, which is actually kind of interesting. If you've never worked with Alibaba, it looks an awful lot like AWS. But you're just, what's missing? What you're missing here is Azure. So it's kind of interesting on how that works. But this is just really kind of neat because it actually goes into how many clients was synced within the last 24 hours because the merge is now up and running. And again, the majority of it is Geth. All right. You've got a lot of people that are still just using this. You've got some really interesting side systems, right? And they'll tell you what's compatible and what's not. But you only have a small amount of these clients that were not ready for the merge. So most everybody was ready and good to go. And then you get some really good just use, right? So pretty good shape. This has just got good information that if you're trying to figure out what version of system you want to use and where the popularity of those systems are, it's still going to be Geth. Right? And we'll go over and we'll talk about Geth here in a little bit. But again, I just kind of wanted to walk through this because this is how you know what you're going to build to. Where is the world right now? You're going to build on using a Geth client. You're probably going to build an Amazon cloud, which means you're going to have access to all of those really good, rich Amazon tools. And that's mostly what we'll focus on in here is how to take advantage of that and move forward through that. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on a bunch of other things because this is where the industry is going and this is where the market says it is. So again, great source. Go check out ethernodes.org. It's going to change because it's basically a very flexible system, but definitely go check it out. And this is how we're going to decide what we're going to build on. So we're going to use Geth. We're going to use Amazon. We're going to do it in the United States. But it doesn't mean that I can't build it on the West Coast, East Coast. It doesn't mean I can't put it in Germany. It doesn't mean I can't put it in Singapore. So I can use the power of the cloud to help move all of my stuff across the world and really have a global, survivable Ethereum network, which would make it like tons easier, especially if we're tied in and we use our peers as master peers, right? Kind of, I'm only going to have 4 peers, 1 or 2 peers per area, and then that's where I'll inject my smart contract and we go on from there. Really kind of cool. There's some really cool architecture you can do in here as an engineer, and we'll go over a good chunk of it. So I'll see you in the next lecture.